Has Cal underachieved at Kentucky?
Well, I believe he has. Listen, he's gone to 6 Final Fours in his career. He's taken 3 different schools, UMass, Memphis, and Kentucky, to a Final Four. There's no doubt about it that he's a great coach, and I'm not sitting up here trying to say otherwise. But at some point in time, you're at the University of Kentucky. It comes with a different standard. If in the NBA we can look at the Lakers and we can look at the Boston Celtics and we can say stuff like that entails a different standard, we can certainly say that in college basketball. We're going to say that about the Dukes. We're going to say that about the Kentuckys. To a lesser degree, we're going to say that about the North Carolina, the sort of blue Kansas as well, the blue bloods of the sport. I know that it's changed drastically over the years, Coach, and nobody is oblivious to that. And you know how long I go back with John Calipari. I respect the hell out of him and I love him. But we've got to call it like we see it. He has underachieved. There was more expected of him. You haven't been to a Final Four since 2015. You haven't won a national championship since 2012. And then you keep coming up with this song and dance about how young your players are, Well, who the hell picked the young roster? You did. You've got 15 guys on your squad. I'm looking at it, 8 were freshmen, 3 were sophomores. That's a choice that John Calipari made, knowing that in all likelihood it takes a bit more than that as it pertains to experience to win into NCAA tournament. He is not a novice. He has been a head coach in college basketball for 32 years, and he has 1 championship to show for it, and he hasn't been in a Final Four in nearly the last 10 years. Come on now. You're at Kentucky. There's a different standard.
Stephen A., I'm going to agree with you. The last 5 years are unacceptable. Unacceptable in terms of John Calipari's standard for his program and unacceptable for the Kentucky program. And John Calipari, he's always been ahead of the curve. In the last 5 years, he has not been ahead of the curve. All right. In fact, he's been behind the curve because he talks about getting old and staying old. He's been late to the portal. He hasn't shown the agility to adjust to the new culture and environment of college basketball. And here's the biggest problem, Stephen A. And look, John Calipari, as you know, is one of my dearest friends. 47 years, absolutely love the guy. The biggest problem is swaggy Cal needs to go. Old school Cal needs to come back. And what I mean by that is old school Cal, you defended, you rebounded, you were physical, you were tough, you competed at a high level, you drew a line in the sand every single play. That's the John Calipari at UMass. That's the John Calipari at Memphis. That's the John Calipari in his early Kentucky years. Swaggy Cal, yeah, we bring great talent. That's great. Talent without toughness does not win. Those guys are all going to be great pros. That's great. They don't help you win in the moment. So to me, I think the biggest thing is Cal's got to go back to old school Cal. Cal's got to go back to be demanding. Cal's got to go back to starting and finishing on the defensive end with physicality. When you covered him when he was at UMass, what were those teams like, Stephen A.?
Oh, the experience, athletic, could shoot. You had Mike Williams, you had Lou Rowe, you had Marcus Camby in the crew.
Tough.
They had a crew. They get inside and out, and they were tough.
Yeah, and this team is not tough, and that's what he's got to get back to. He's got to get back to being John Calipari. Well, it's great. I understand the speed and playing with these great, young, talented players. They don't win in the NCAA tournament.
Coach, I'm going to say something right now, and I have to say this with you in attendance, knowing that one of my best buddies, Bruiser Flint, is watching. Yes. And Coach Undercal, who I've known for years, used to coach at Drexel, used to be an assistant for Cal at UMass. I love my brother. I miss him. I haven't seen him in a long time. I hope he's watching. But I got to tell you something right now about John Calipari. You talked about the toughness of his teams. With all due respect, Coach, where's Cal's toughness? Let me read the quote to you about John Calipari. I am right now talking about John Calipari's toughness, not his players. Here he is. I've done this with young teams my whole career, and it's going to be hard for me to change that because we've helped so many young people and their families that I don't see myself just saying, okay, we're not going to recruit freshmen. That's not the point. He's being evasive. And if I was in John Calipari's face, I'd hug him, I'd tell him I love him, and I'd tell him that to his face. He's being soft. The fact of the matter is you're trying to win. You're trying to win. And the John Calipari I knew read the tea leaves and said, this is what it's going to take to win, and damn it, that's what I'm going to do. He didn't get caught up in all of the pomp and circumstance. What you saw John Calipari say last night in that press conference. And please take that off the screen because I want America to look at me when I'm saying this about my buddy John Calipari. What you saw last night, Coach, is what I have called players out before. Remember when I'd be on the air, Coach, and I'd go off because LeBron James would drop 40 or 50 and soak in all the adulation. But the second he had a bad game and somebody called him on about it, well, I'm just here. I just want to be a role model to the kids. And, you know, I just want everybody to know that I'm just trying to do it. No, that's not the point. And Calipari, that's not the point. The point is you are a great coach who knows how to win basketball games. And perhaps the problem is you've gotten soft because you got so caught up in bringing these young kids and prioritizing being a father figure to these guys that, excuse me, in the process of doing all of those other things, you haven't prioritized doing what it takes to win the way you did when you were at Memphis, when you took them to the Final Four. The way you did when you were in Memphis and you had Derrick Rose and it took Mario Chalmers hitting the three and pushing the game into overtime in order to deny you a national championship. That John Calipari was the John Calipari that did whatever it took. You didn't give a damn about freshmen, sophomores, seniors, whatever. Who are the tough dudes that's going to help deliver me the goods, that are going to enable me to overachieve and position me to capture a national championship? That's the John Calipari that you're talking about, Coach Greenberg.
Would a title make Caitlin Clark the greatest of all time?
Yes. A national championship this season would make Caitlin Clark the greatest college basketball player of all time. It's not just because she won the title. It would be because she led her team to the title while having the all-time scoring record, being the only player to have 3,000 points and 1,000 assists, and the only player, this is men's or women's, to lead the country in points and assists twice. And the second part of this is if she wins it this season, I've had people mention Molly, your girl, Breanna Stewart.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about Breanna Stewart. I know she won 4. Breanna Stewart is an amazing player. She's an electric player. That UConn team that she played with, Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis is one of the greatest shooters women's college basketball has seen. Kia Stokes just helped the Las Vegas Aces win back-to-back championships. Kia Nurse, Mariah Jefferson, Gabby Williams. There are multiple players that are still in the WNBA that played with Breanna Stewart. I'll bring up another one of your girls, Maya Moore. Maya Moore was my favorite player. I had newspaper clippings. I'm from Georgia. I had newspaper clippings of her on my wall. But we can't act like she didn't have Tina Charles alongside her, who just signed with the Atlanta Dream, Tiffany Hayes, who just retired from a great WNBA career, and Renee Montgomery alongside her, who had such a great WNBA career that she's part owner of the Atlanta Dream. People want to bring up Kareem like he didn't play with Lucius Allen. Caitlin is leading this team by herself. The point differential when she's on the floor is plus 21. She has such little margin for error. Even when they lose in the tournament, she averages 20 points. It's the 30% from the field. They lose games that way. Her margin for error is so small. She has men's and women's records and won championship. To me, Molly, winning multiple championships is the sign of a great program. Winning one is the sign of a great player. You only have 4 years to do it. So one championship would make Caitlin the GOAT, and I stand on that.
Stephen?
Well, you go ahead and stand on that, Andrea. Way to go. All right, you make a very, very compelling argument, and I am not an expert in women's college basketball, so I am in no position to challenge you. But damn it, I'm going to try anyway. Let's talk about Cheryl Miller for a second. Cheryl Miller.
Okay.
All right, the sister of Reggie Miller. I'm looking at some numbers here. A 2-time national champion, 2-time NCAA Tournament most outstanding player, obviously a 3-time Naismith Award winner, okay? 4-time All-American. I'm like, come on now. I don't know if I can summarily dismiss that. Don't get me started with my girl Diana Taurasi. I mean, it would be blasphemous for me not to mention that 3-time national champion at UConn, okay? It would be blasphemous for me to mention. That girl could shoot. She got ball handling skills. She's got moxie. She's got toughness. She's got a lot of components that you are far more qualified than me as an expert on women's college basketball to argue. But I'm just saying, to just say Caitlin Clark and just so flippantly dismiss, and I know you wasn't doing it in that way. I'm just saying so matter-of-factly just dismiss these other names. My God. Diana Taurasi, that's my all-time favorite. Breanna Stewart, I can't forget the fact that she won a championship each and every single year in college. Four-time champion. I'm like, wait a minute now. When you're talking about Caitlin Clark, she can shoot. She can handle. Leading the nation in scoring and assists. I get it. Took them to the national championship game last year before LSU bounced them out. Winning the championship this year would obviously mean a lot, but I think it matters who you go to. Like, for example, if South Carolina gets bounced out earlier and you don't get to see them, right, because they wet the bed before they get a chance to face Iowa. What if LSU gets bounced out and they don't face Iowa? If you don't face that competition, I think it matters, Andraya, who you beat along the way. And if she beat LSU and she beat South Carolina, I might have to stand down. But for the moment, I'm going to look into this camera, and I'm going to say to Cheryl Miller, I'm going to say to Diana Taurasi, hey, I love Caitlin Clark, but I ain't there yet. I can't just throw them out like that. I just can't do it.
I hear you. But again, and yes, the road does matter. I firmly believe it would have to be taking out LSU, potentially UCLA, and then beating South Carolina. Like, you can't argue in that facet as far as the opponents go. I'm imagining the top seeds kind of running the field and Caitlin getting to a national championship and winning it. I don't think Iowa's going to win. I don't have Iowa in my Final Four, which is why if she goes to win it, I would consider her the GOAT. You bring up Cheryl Miller. I love Cheryl Miller. I respect the women's game, but we can't act like she didn't have Cynthia Cooper alongside her. We can't act like she didn't have Pam McGee alongside her on that team. Who is Caitlin rolling with? Diana Taurasi is also one of my favorite players, but you act like she didn't play with Sue Bird. You act like she didn't play with Swing Cash. It's a team thing, Stephen A. It's a team sport.
Hold up, Andrea. I understand that, but this is basketball, not football. And what I mean by that is you got offense, you got defense, you got special teams. But no matter what team you're around, in the sport of basketball, your greatness can shine. It can shine. Even if you're surrounded with greatness, you could still stand out above the crowd. We've seen plenty of teams that have had great players around them, but it didn't dilute the shine that particular player was putting forth. And I'm saying to you, we can't have a situation. I believe in Caitlin Clark. I think she's the modern day Steph, because she's a Steph Curry of women's basketball. I think she's phenomenal. I think she's going to take the WNBA by storm. They ain't a bigger fan of hers than me. But I also look at a Cheryl Miller and a Diana Taurasi and people like that. I've watched them play. I've watched their individual performance. I've watched their individual toughness. I could imagine them going up against Angel Reese and LSU and it possibly being a different outcome than it was for Caitlin Clark last year against LSU because of the toughness that they had. They had Angel Reese type personalities. And I'm not saying that Caitlin doesn't. You'll definitely know that better than me. I'm saying I didn't see it.